As a slight change to the schedule, my name's Matt Brown. I'm standing in for Ali that's advertised on the schedule. I am Vice President of Product Management at Workshare. And what I want to discuss with you today is the challenges that marketers face when creating and collaborating on content with multiple people, and the challenges that they face in the information overload that we're facing, particularly now in a mobile world. So in terms of an agenda, I'd like to discuss why marketers are in crisis, why information is consuming us and drowning us, and what we need to do about it, and how we can get ahead of the game. And then I want to focus in on a case study with Wafer, who had similar challenges in being able to produce and create creative content, and how they solved that problem and changed the way that they actually worked and started sharing and collaborating on the work that they produced. And really then the power is in your hands to try and solve those problems through Collaboration 101. So first of all, marketers are facing a crisis. We now generate as much data in 2 days as from the dawn of time to 2003. That's a lot of information, and I'm sure that you've experienced it in PR, marketing, and advertising agencies. From press releases in Word to lead generation in Excel, or even creative specifications in PowerPoint. Hundreds, in fact thousands of documents and files are shared and worked on and collaborated on through organizations every week. And if we look at the digital universe expected in 2020, it's supposed to go from 0.8 zettabytes in 2009 to 35 zettabytes in 2020. Now, I'm sure you all know what a zettabyte is, but I certainly don't, but it's an awful lot of information in the world. So it's exponentially grown, and it's a problem that we are facing today. So let's take the example of a single document. One document that can go back and forth through multiple revisions before it reaches its final proof point. So we have a brief at the beginning, and it may be shared amongst several different people. You've created 4 emails, you have 6 pieces of content or input back, and you've created 3 versions of the document. It then goes through another set of drafts, and it goes through another set of reviews and approvals. That's more emails, more versions of the document, more attachments in your email inbox. And then it goes into the design concept and final design stage, where we're now changing the file format. Perhaps we're moving from to final stage to publishing stage. That's more emails, more inputs, different ways of working because it's a different file format, until we get to the sign-offs. And at the end of that creation process, we've probably gone through multiple versions, incorporated changes from multiple different people, and if we haven't made an error, then we'd be very lucky that we came out of it unscathed. So even the simple document goes through multiple changes in this. And the challenges really are version control in this, and incorporating everybody's comments and making sure that no errors are produced in this process. And typically, email is the tool that everybody falls back on. Even more, there might be many different people and teams that are working on this content. So both internal and external to your organization. You have the content creation team who creates the content, the design agency, the marketing team, the copywriters, and then they will review it with multiple people, probably the CMO, possibly the CEO, and others. And then externally distributing that content to various different teams. So you can see multiple different people are involved in this process. And marketing will most likely own the document, but involve various parts of the company. And a document approaches completion, it may be passed to several different people, our agencies or artwork, to get the completion done. So again, complicated process, error prone, and you must make sure that you get all of the comments and inclusions into the final version of the document. But it's hard enough that these teams are located just in the same building. But what if they're distributed across the globe, which many organizations are, many customers are, many suppliers are? And what if we're now all accessing and working on content from mobile devices and from different locations, such as coffee shops or airports? The whole problem just exponentially grows in how we can control and collaborate efficiently on the content that we're trying to produce. And we all put these down to simple tasks. These are everyday things that we do. As I mentioned, we normally just fall back on email, but these tasks have a cost, and they have a cost associated with it. So looking at IDC, and IDC analysed the day-to-day working of information workers and how they work on content. And they saw that collaborative tasks such as the review and approval of content takes the average worker 4.3 hours of management a week. And they spend 8.3 hours, that's a whole day, editing and reviewing. And then 4 hours, half a day, managing the routing of those documents through multiple different people. And by far and away, the most expensive task that information workers do is read and create emails, with over $21,000 a week spent on one person spent on managing their email. And why is this? Because email is easy, it works, and everyone understands it, but it causes lots of different problems in terms of managing the review and approval and version control of content. And so there's a huge gap to fill in terms of better tools and better ways of working when collaborating on content. Well, the good news is the power is in your hands. We've learned from the Custom Content Council that 68% of CMOs are actually increasing their budget for content marketing, so producing and generating content. So there's money to be spent out there to improve the situation. And we found that 20% of a marketing budget now is going on solving these problems, because it's identified that this is a cost to the business. So we're seeing CMOs investing money in this area to solve this particular issue. And some are even spending over half their budget on solving the creation of content and the distribution of content issue. So what are the challenges for marketers today? So with employees working remotely and the emergence of bringing your own device, bringing your own mobile devices to work, and the ability to work on the move, there are issues of security and compliance in managing your content. So we're seeing that marketers are looking at tools to reduce the cost and complexity of managing multiple projects and large volumes of content. So they're looking at implementing tools to manage that and manage the email overflow. And particularly risk as well. I mentioned that that review process is error-prone. Well, you cannot afford to deliver the incorrect final version to print for a creative brief, for example. You just can cost money, it can lose clients, and so you need to make sure that the final content is absolutely accurate and complete. And then again, there's productivity. I mentioned that $21,000 is going on creating email. That's a cost, but also a productivity drain on your organization. And you also need to understand the full audit trail of how that content has been produced over time, who touched what, who said what changes were made, so you have a full tracking of all of your content that you're producing. So what we typically find is users fall back on email, but then that causes email chaos. And we see technology putting almost band-aids on email to try and solve the problem, such as email archiving and email security, when really that's not the root cause of the problem. So let's take a look at a case study very quickly here and dive into a specific case study of Pink Wafer. Pink Wafer is a leading creative agency of premium brands, and they create compelling creative marketing solutions and brand awareness and brand presence for their clients across all industry sectors. With clients and suppliers across the globe, and with them just about to set up a New York office, they need a way to securely collaborate and share and communicate with both their internal employees and their clients in a very consistent way, and be able to incorporate any changes that they have on their content in a very consistent, easy way. The challenge was to provide an online collaboration and communication tool that would accurately show comments from multiple people, track their changes, store versions, and it was essential that they had an audit trail so they could then prove to the client how they had ended up with the final version of their creative. They tried multiple different tools, so file transfer tools, file synchronization tools, such as Dropbox, for example, but they were too difficult to use and they weren't really true collaboration tools, so they didn't allow you to really mark up and comment and evolve the content. And there was a lot of unstructured back and forth on documents. They needed a central place that was controlled online, and they needed it to consistently work because any costing in time was a cost in time to them, but also to the client, and they couldn't afford to risk losing a client because of missed deadlines or inaccurate content. So here were the consolidated use cases that Pink Wafer were looking for. Really, they wanted a file sharing, review and comparison tool that would be able to for them to consolidate feedback from multiple parties on the same document. They needed to be able to track the versions of all of the content that they produced and increase their project review cycles. They also wanted a publishing tool so they could publish final versions to the client and interact with the client. They also wanted the client to provide their feedback. So it wasn't only a tool that they used internally, but they also found it was a way of promoting their work to their client and interacting with the client in a much more intimate way, a way that email doesn't provide you that. So they saw it as a way of marketing and promoting their business at the same time as getting input into the work. Another key challenge was a lot of their files were enormous. So enormous media files, enormous images, where email just simply won't work because either email blocks the large file attachment or it takes a very long time for the email to get sent. So they needed a solution that would manage very large files to be uploaded and distributed onto the system. So they came to Workshare, and Workshare provides file sharing and collaboration platform to be able to collaborate, synchronize and share content online and from one place anywhere. So by using Workshare's platform to collaborate, Pink Wafer was able to make use of all of the document-centric features. They were able to collaborate on documents. So what that meant was they could see differences between files, they could see suggested changes from multiple people, and then they can actually accept and reject them, almost like track changes on steroids, if you like, but online and available from anywhere. They were able to deliver any files to their clients at any size. They could also ensure that it was secure. So if there was any content that was confidential, that they didn't want to get into the hands of a competitor, for example, they could make sure that that content was very secure, encrypted, until it was time to publish the content. They also found that productivity increased dramatically. So as people were coming out of email and starting to use an online tool for collaborating, they were able to reduce the amount of email flow and email traffic quite dramatically. And also they found that their users were actually starting to collaborate whilst on the move from their iPads or their iPhones or their mobile devices as well. So the Workshare Tools allows you to work, as I mentioned, anytime, anywhere. It has multiple different tool sets to enable people to effectively and productively work anytime, anywhere. We have desktop tools, mobile applications, tablet applications, and online views to be able to synchronize your files from any device, multiple devices, get access to your content anytime. You can also work offline and online. And the great thing is you can retain a version history and a view of all of your changes and comments that have been made throughout the life cycle of your collaboration. So a little bit on Workshare and who we are, just as a sort of final wrap-up before we go into questions. We're very proud to have a very strong customer base. We operate in over 70 countries. We have 18,000 organizations using our software every day to streamline the way that they work and collaborate on content. And we operate in multiple different sectors. As you can see, there are some big names in the advertising and marketing services space for tackling just the problems that I described today in being able to generate and create creative content faster and more productively. We're also recognized for the excellence in our products. We've been accredited with various different awards, and we've also have accreditations for security and compliance, making our platform a very secure, compliant way of sharing and working on content. And most recently, we were awarded the Cody Finalist Award for Best Collaboration Tool. So I appreciate your time today. Thanks for listening to me. I was wondering at this time if anybody had any questions. And if you don't have any questions now, please come and visit us at stand D12, which is just over near the front entrance.